Tinnakill House. Everybody, attention. Start the proceedings, so will everyone come closer so you can hear what the speakers are saying? Dan Carmody is starting off the proceedings. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're all very welcome here to Tinnakill House. The house is the ancestral home of the Lawler family. It was built in 1770 and it will be 250 years old in the year 2020. The house has been in the Lawler family in continuous occupation since then, and we're very happy here this afternoon to have Kevin Lawler Fitzpatrick, who's the current owner, with his wife Mary, and Kevin will say a few words now.
Thanks very much, Dan. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Australia, you're more than welcome. It's a great honour, it's a great pleasure to have this gentleman here with us today. Friends, neighbours, you're all very welcome here to Tinnakill, Chocknaquilla, the house in the wood. It's a great honour, as I say, to have the Ambassador with us here this afternoon, and Cathaoirleach of Laois County Council, Padraig Fleming, and Michael Parsons, the chairperson of the National Heritage Council of Ireland. Distinguished guests, friends and neighbours, you're all very welcome. I'm not going to say a whole lot. There is an awful lot that we could say about the Lawlers. Great people, steeped in history, fantastic house here, but with the weather that's in it, and there's a couple of other speakers, so we're going to keep it short and sweet. We're delighted to have the principal from Tuberon Lane National School in Raheen, and Alison and Orla here as well with us, and the boys and girls are going to sing a song for the Ambassador, two songs I'm told, and Aaron Lawler is going to play a tune on the violin, so great entertainment here. I leave the song choices as a surprise for the Ambassador, but they'll be well worth hearing, I can assure you. The Lawler family here, steeped in history, the house built in 1770, as Dan said. It's sadly gone into disrepair, but back in October 2017, last year, thanks to Catherine Casey and Laois County Council and Chief Executive John Mulholland, we were able to secure a grant for structures at risk, and work commenced on the house. This is the third committee to oversee things, and third time lucky, as they say, and we have 6 people on the committee. They'll be named later on. They're an excellent committee and a good working committee. We have an excellent architect and engineer with Richard McLaughlin and Austin Denny. Wonderful people who will oversee and guide us along the way with the repairs to and reconstruction of Tinnakill House. It's our ambition to restore the house to its full potential, what it was back in the days of the famous Lawlers. 4 famous people came out of this house. Honest Pat Lawler, who was an MP. He was the first Catholic MP for Queen's County, which is now Laois, of course. First Catholic MP since the reign of James I. His sons, James Finton, whose monument stands tall and proud outside County Hall. James Finton fought for the small tenant farmers against the English landlords in the 1800s. His brother Richard, an MP following in his father's footsteps, and Peter, of course, who's the link to Australia, and Peter fought for the gold miners in the Eureka Stockade and later became a Speaker in the House of Parliament. Back in the late 70s or early 80s, the actor Brian Brown, staying in Abbeyleix, and he came out here, and my late father, Richard Lawler Fitzpatrick, we had the honour of meeting Brian, who was portraying the part of Peter Lawler and did excellently in the film Eureka Stockade. Keep an eye out for it. It was on RTE in the late 80s and TV3 in '93. There's great history. There was other members of the family, but those are the 4 famous people: James Finton, Richard and Peter. Peter and Richard were educated in Trinity College, the first Catholics to be inside the gate of Trinity College to be educated there. They were qualified as civil engineers, and both of them went to Australia. Richard returned to the farm here. There was 1,200 acres at the time. There's 140 in it at present. And Peter, of course, never returned, which was sad to think that he walked up the avenue here saying goodbye to his parents and sister and brothers, and never to return. But he created and done great work in Australia, as I'm sure the Ambassador will tell us in his few words. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much more that we could say about those marvellous people. It's great that the house is being restored. We thank all involved with Laois Heritage, the National Heritage Council of Ireland, and the people who done the work on the house. Smith Demolition. Think of the name Smith Demolition. Think of demolition. Not a stone or a brick has fallen out of place since those people did the work there that you see in front of you. And Richard, of course, oversaw things, and Austin, and as I said, marvellous people doing Trojan work. Onwards and upwards. I will leave it at that for now, because I'm conscious of the weather and previous our speakers that are coming forward as well. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour to have His Excellency, the Ambassador from Australia to Ireland here, Richard Andrews. Pleasure to have you here. Terrific honour. A great historic day for Raheen, for Laois and for Tinnakill. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance. Ladies and gentlemen, I call on His Excellency now, Richard Andrews, Australian Ambassador, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for coming out on such a, well, what seems to me to be a very cold and windy day, although I've been told by some of the kids here that it's actually quite normal for this day. It's a great honour for me that so many people have turned up for this visit, and it's also a wonderful thing for me to come to this place which has such a strong connection with Australian history. I certainly am not going to speak for very long because I am feeling the cold a little bit, but I'm sure, especially those of you who don't have the benefit of an umbrella are too. But I just wanted to say one thing really, which is that when Peter Lalor left this place, went to Australia, he took with him something which was very important. He took with him a great sense of fairness, he took with him his courage, and he took with him a great sense of loyalty to his mates. When he went to Australia, he was placed in a situation where the government was unfairly levying large taxes on people who went to seek for their fortunes and to find gold. And he rallied those people together. He stood up for what was right, and he stood up for his friends. And that is something which Irish people have taken out with them all around the world, but particularly to Australia, and the fact that they took those things to Australia has helped to make Australia now a country which, very much like Ireland, stands for fairness, for freedom, for democracy, and above all for mateship. I hope that all of you here, if you haven't already done so, will have a chance to go to Australia sometime in the future. I hope that, unlike Peter Lalor, those of you who want to also come back from there as well. But there are many people who very happily do go to Australia and don't come back, I might add. But, that's another story. But I hope you all have the chance to go and to feel as much at home in Australia as I've been made to feel here. Thank you very much for the welcome. It's really helpful.
What's the next thing?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I call on Mary Lawler Fitzpatrick now to say a few words.
Mr. Ambassador, Mayor of the Laois County Council, Mr. Patrick Fleming, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, it's a great honour for me here today to welcome and greet you all at Tinnakill House. It's a day that we will remember always, and I'm sure the boys and girls from Tubberone Lane who are present will remember this for a very long time. I'd just like to share a few thoughts with you. Sometimes when I'm down here on the grounds of Tinnakill, I wonder what it was like for, in the 1800s, for the family of Richard and Peter when they decided to leave their home here at Tinnakill and their native land. Not forgetting Richard's wife Margaret John and her sister Alicia and their family who left their home at Doon to travel thousands of miles to a faraway continent, probably thinking that they would never see their family again. I often think of my own grandmother. 5 of her sons and 2 of her daughters emigrated to England in the 50s. And I remember when we were younger and they'd be going back after being home for a couple of weeks holidays, how broken-hearted she used to be. But at least they were able to come home regularly. You know, when Australia was so far away, and back in the 1800s, it was not easy, especially at that time, and expensive to get home so far away. Richard, along with his wife Margaret Don, as I said, and his brother Peter and Margaret's sister Alicia, decided to take the ship to Australia. They spent 3.5 months travelling on the high seas to a new land and a new future, not knowing what kind of life would be ahead of them. The girls knew that they would have a friend there when they arrived in Melbourne. They had an uncle, a priest, Father Patrick Don, who lived in Geelong, where Alicia lived for some time with him. As I said already, Richard and his wife returned home after a couple of years when honest Pat became ill at Tinnakill, and Richard returned to look after him and the farm. Then later on, Alicia, having nursed Peter to health after being shot in the arm at the Battle of Eureka, the arm eventually had to be amputated because it was in such bad condition. Peter and Alicia married later and stayed in Australia, as we know, and spent their lives there. I'd also like to remember the 3 women who made the original Southern Cross banner: Anastasia Withers, Anastasia Hayes and Annie Duke. They spent almost 3 weeks making the banner by lamplight while watching out for the troopers who were marching around the diggings, looking to trample any sign of an uprising. When their children had gone to bed at night, they sewed the white cross on blue material and 5 stars that represented the 5 continents of Australia, which Peter Lawler used to rally his forces at Ballarat. The flag became a symbol of Australia's fighting spirit, and the flag continued to have more than 160 years of influence on Australia. Little did Peter, Richard and James Finton and their father, honest Pat, realise the contribution they would make to history, and that it would still be remembered almost 200 years later. I just finished by saying I'd also like to take this opportunity to remember Kevin's parents, Richard and Millie Lawler Fitzpatrick, who greeted so many visitors to Tinnakill over the years, from places like Australia, Canada, America and various parts of Ireland. Richard providing the history of the Lawler family, and Millie providing refreshments, and Kevin later on taking over from his dad, meeting and greeting so many visitors to Tinnakill. And I'm sure they're here with us in spirit today. It's wonderful that there is so much interest still in the Lawler family of Tinnakill to this day. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll call on the Cathaoirleach Chairman of Laois County Council, Patrick Fleming.
Thanks very much. Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to address this slightly different. I'll be courteous and say welcome His Excellency Richard Andrews, the Australian Ambassador to Ireland. And next thing I'm going to say, welcome all the school children, and it's great to have you here today. It's absolutely fantastic. And also I'd like to welcome the members of the Lawler family, and you've heard Kevin here speaking about the history, and he kept it brief because of the weather. You also heard Mary talking about you know, from a family and a family connections, and the sadness and the happiness and the achievements as well. So they've kind of covered, you know, both sides of it, which is very nice to hear. Also, I'd like to welcome, as Kevin said, the members of the Tinnakill Restoration Committee, and the names that we mentioned, there's about 6 or 7 on the committee, and they're very strong-minded people, but they're strong because they get support from the people, and a lot of things have happened. I'd also like to remember the officials from Laois County Council who have done great work here, like Catherine Casey, Dom Redden and all them, and I'm not leaving out names. But I'd also like to welcome the councillors. There's local councillors here representing you here in this area. I see John Fenley here, county councillor, he'd be a local councillor for here. I see Caroline Dewan Stanley, and I see also Jerry Lodge. Jerry's a quiet man. Jerry is the link between Portlaoise and this area, but Jerry is the link man between the council, the committee here, and getting to work. I'd also like to welcome Michael Parsons, chairman of the National Heritage. It's a great honour for a Laois person, Laois man, to be chairman of that, and we'll be looking forward to your support in the years to come. So I'm just going to say a few more words. I hope I've left nobody out, but I'm going to just say a few things about the family, then one or two other things, and then we'll keep going. I'm glad the rain has stopped. Now, if there's any other councillor here that have left out, also I'd thank the media and the press as well, and also the photographers, and all ye people from various levels of life, and particularly local people. It gives me a great privilege as Cathaoirleach Laois County Council, and on behalf of the people of Laois, to welcome you here to this historic homestead of the Lawler family. At the outset, I would like to say a few words on the history of the Lawler family. Tinnakill House was the home of Patrick Lawler, who got a 30-year lease of 140 acres at the end of the 18th century, and that's many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago. Some years later, he was allocated more land as well into the Tarbert area, adjoining his current place. Patrick went on to have 2 sons and 2 daughters, which have been mentioned earlier. The eldest son being named Patrick, who was better known as Honest Pat Lawler. And I've been here at some functions before, and Kevin always reminds us of Kevin Pat Lawler and the famous man he was. So basically, Patrick was born here in Tinnakill House. You mentioned that in 1786, so a good few hundred years ago, as I said earlier. And he became the Catholic MP for the Queen's County, which was known then as County Laois. He was a great supporter of the repeal movement against the Act of Union, and perhaps his greatest achievement was the abolition of the tithe system. James Fintan Lawler was the eldest son of Honest Pat, but felt much stronger about the national question, as did his father, who was a total pacifist. So here you have people, doing right, like James Fintan, inspiring the 1916 leaders, but also his father, who was a pacifist. And it was a major combination. Pacifism is great because we all want peace everywhere, in our homes, in Ireland, throughout the world. And but it's great to have the side of it. And of course, James Fintan Lawler, together with the 2 brothers, Peter and Richard, who took part in the unsuccessful Young Ireland Rebellion in 1849. So maybe you've learnt it in history in your schools, or you learn it later on in your other education. His involvement in that was difficult in the sense that what happened then was that basically we're here now then talking about Peter, and that's why the Australian ambassador is here today. But I suppose it brought a bit of a difficulty in the family because the Young Ireland Rebellion wasn't successful, but they all went on to do greater things. Fintan's writing influenced quite a number, as I said earlier, of the Easter Rising people, and we're hugely proud of them. And I'll come back to Peter in a minute, but I just want to remember, when you go into Portlaoise and you turn right down, as I'll say to children, you're heading for Supermax and you see County Hall, there's a major statue there for James Fintan Lawler, and you should go in and see it. It's representing him, and it's representing what he achieved and the inspiration that he gave to people. And for the man who was born in this house, he inspired many leaders of other countries as well. So there's a great history and tradition of James Fintan Lawler and his writings, And he also became, so Peter then, why we have the Australian ambassador here today, he was a major man in the Eureka Stockade, and he later became Speaker of the Victorian Parliament. So, and there's a statue there in Ballarat in Australia also representing him. So, as been said by earlier speakers, but I think it's equally important that Laois, its local people and the wider community understand this, and it's great that all this is happening because we want to promote these great Laois people, great family and great history behind them, because if we haven't got our history and we don't recognise it, we lose a lot. So young people growing up in schools, follow your history, follow your local people, the people who made a big difference here to the world generally, and you should be very proud of them. So look, I think I've nearly covered all the key points, Kevin. I hope I've represented as best as possible. I hope I left nobody out, but I'm sure Dan is going to mention the committee and the hard-working people. So, yes, sorry, there's one or two other things I have to say. Kevin, I thought I'd be the longest speaker here. It turns out maybe I am. But this is important. We have an autumn school that started here in 2013 in Laois. And it's where a whole lot of speakers come from various levels of Ireland, from politics, history, culture, you name it. And there's about 200 people come to Portlaoise the autumn school in the autumn where it's held. And the Dundee Mace Theatre, and recently in the Midlands, we say park, we say hotel. So there's great debate, great discussion, and everything there. And like, it's trying from Laois County Council that they are doing their best in having these autumn schools to represent the people, to get the word out there, etc. Also, there was a play written by Mick Finn based on his writings as well. And if you're ever in County Hall, and there's lovely artwork there along the County Hall, linking the two buildings, that represents an awful lot of culture and history, and the start of Ireland as well, going back to a long time ago. So look, it's a great honour, as I say, to be here today. I wish everyone the best. Again, a massive thank you to the Australian ambassador. And I must say, you're a very affable, easy man to manage, because you're great with the school kids here and you're able to talk to them all. And we're really proud that you're here today. And I think now maybe I'll hand it back to you. But I hope I've left nothing out. But do remember the name, the history, the tradition. Thank you very much.
I'll hand you back now to Kevin.
Thanks, Dan. Pádraig said that he thought that maybe I would be the longest speaker, but he didn't realise that I had another little bit to go, part two. We'd just like to say a few thank yous to everyone that was involved in the preparation for this historical day here at Tinnakill, to Niamh Campion, the principal of Tuberon Lane, and Alison and Orla and various other teachers, and the boys and girls here who are going to sing a couple of songs for us in just a moment, to the boys and girls who greeted the ambassador at the school with their Irish and Australian flags. Give them all a big round of applause, they deserve it. To Jim and Pat, who looked after security here for us, to Michelle O'Sullivan, who is on photography, to the local media, Seamus Dunn from the Leinster Express, and the Laois Nationalist, and also Alf Harvey, their photographer as well, all doing great work. To Noel Byrne and his team at Abbeyleix Parish Employment for the excellent work that they did in preparation for this afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a historical day. It's a day, as Mary said, that it will be remembered by everyone that's present here when they grow a little bit older in time to come. I often think of the famous Lawlers. What would they make of Ireland and Laois today, and Raheen here in Tinnakill, if they were to come back here today? And indeed my own parents, that's one sad thing, that they weren't around to see the house being restored. It was a great ambition of my father's to try and get the house restored, and he did try diligently to do so, but things didn't work out. The Australian government back in 74, we have this Mr. Andrews is the Ambassador Andrews is the third Australian dignitary to be here at Tinnakill. We had Al Grasby back in 74. We had Ambassador Millen back in 87, and today we're honoured, as we said, to have Ambassador Andrews here, and we hope that he will return to Laois and to Tinnakill in the future when the house will be fully restored, and see it in a new light when we can go inside. So it's a great honour to have everyone here today, friends and neighbours and family and relations and dignitaries. And just to finish off, the gold miners flag that Peter Lawler would have raised back in the 1800s is the first flag that you see there, the Eureka Stockade, the cross with the stars on it, the blue and white flag. The middle flag, of course, is our own Irish flag, and the flag furthest from us here is the Australian flag, very specially for Ambassador Andrews. And just as a final word, today being Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, I once heard it was told that Peter Lawler, who married his wife Alicia Dunn, and I suppose love holds no bounds, I once was told that he travelled and walked 50 miles to meet Alicia. So that's, just think of it, walking from here to Dublin to meet your loved one. How many of us would do it, being Valentine's Day? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for your attendance here at Tinnakill.
Sorry, before we go, I just want to say we're going to be entertained by the children from the school, the local school here. And I would say one thing to the children, that be fazed by nothing as you go through life. And look at the house here. And look at the state that the house is in. And in 5 or 6 years' time, this house will be restored. Nothing is impossible. Set your mind to do whatever course you make in life. And remember that, and don't be fazed by anything. Now, you'll have a song.
Okay, can I have boys and girls for you bookly background shot? Alright, can everybody look up here? Alright, everybody get cold. You need to warm them all up. Alright, so sing out, okay?
Which one do we sing?